Lesson 6 turns the context into runtime leverage. We use MCP servers to extend what agent can do, and hooks can enforce what it must do. Capability and enforcement are two separate layers. If you want a practical part first, use the YouTube chapter link to jump ahead, but I would recommend this core lesson is this. MCP gives the system more tools. Hooks run before or after the tool calls and can block unsafe behavior. One extend, the other enforce. As of early 2026, we have around 8 lifecycle hooks. They are more specific to session, user prompt, tool use, compaction, and subagent. If you run the example yourself, which we will walk just in a couple of seconds in Visual Studio Code, and the link is available in the description below. You can check out the GitHub repo and run on your local machine. Don't just watch whether the pass succeed. Watch the behavior, which are optional, which are enforced. That's fastest way to internalize this difference between the prompt tools and guardrail. And this is one of the very important point if someone is serious about enterprise AI assisted coding. Before we get into this workflow, let's go on Visual Studio Code and find out ourselves. So we are in the Visual Studio Code, and let's run very quickly the demo first. Now, while demo is running, I have already run the previous code, and that will produce all of this output. Right now, the output is basically deleted because we have reset in the source. So let's walk through the hooks, what we got. We got a file hooks, we got a post save hooks, we got a pre-commit hook, and I'm using actually Python files. But instead of Python, you can also use any command that run. It doesn't matter, node.js, whichever language you're familiarized with and you like it. And I have written a very simple hooks in Python, which I can run there. I also give instructions, what it needed, and also created 2 new MCPs. The one and NPX is Anthropic one using the SQLite. The SQLite, because we are using the SQLite database, that will allow the GitHub agent to access what our SQLite database look like, such as like application state, audit log, modification preferences, and also can correlate with the meta test data. The other one is a file system. Here the file system is a very simple. The file system allow access outside of your workspace folder. I'm not actually using for that purpose. It's just for demonstration purpose. But true use case will be if you do not have certain files living in your workspace and on your local machine and you want to go on some remote or extended folders, it will allow you to go and get some access. Very useful. It excludes env, node modules, and config secrets, which we have configured anyways, but we did not allow them to write. Now, I think the code has about to complete. We can see something has been generated here. So I'm pretty sure it will finish very quickly. Now, coming back to this particular example, I got the verification from a previous run, and it's very interesting what happened. So we got all these use cases and we tried it. For example, denying the environment file are generally denied. However, never be mistaken, because the agent can access the command prompt, which means they can actually echo and print the env file. Operating system never enforce them. So it is about the models guardrailing and model safeguarding, and models are not always upending that safeguarding processes. So that's why this second layer of enforced restriction will help your system to protect your environment file and other secret files. You can also manage to secret your cryptography files. If they are non-standard extensions and other, you can certainly add here and improve it. Beyond that point, file protection hook, we saw that and we validated whether allow and deny both works fine. They work perfectly fine. Message quality, very simple things. We just need to make sure that how we are denying and defining and citing the policies. What this will help, it will also help us to curate the context with better safeguarding. So the model can itself safeguard beyond the point. It doesn't have to come for hooks every time. This will explain the behavior that our prompt and our context. Is it a well safeguarded? Is it a well protected? And if not, then obviously we can modify while we still have the hooks and other thing to enforce it further. Import validation hook, test demo harness. I will say go through. There is nothing. There's lot thing to see here, and we have tried our best to apply lot many permutation and combination. But let me tell you honestly, no one can apply all the permutation and combination or all use cases of MCP and the hooks. There are hundreds of that. Let me give a very simple one. I use in my real life project for MCP to, before it fires the test tool, I have a hook which reset the database, and after the test complete, it also reset the database. Then the test in some like Pythons and other, we can actually run the filter test or profile level address, and based on profile and filter test, we can actually select the correct database files or correct SQLite files. That helps to develop more advanced and a multi-dimensional, multifaceted testing strategies. These are the basic use cases of it. But if you run into more advanced, you can actually explore far deep and advanced and meaningful use cases of this enforcement capabilities, not just for the safety and safeguarding, but also to combine with deterministic and non-deterministic workflow elements, because the agents are non-deterministic, while the hooks and MCP are deterministic as well. They are wonderful together when they are put in proper workflow that deserve the right output. Now, I don't think that there is much to show here. The best thing is you check out this from the GitHub. The link is available in the description, and then try to run. And I would also suggest try to write more hooks, try to write more constraint. This is very important to become internalized. It's a very important capability that everyone should know. Now let's go back on our presentation and walk it through. So we are back on our presentation. Let's see what happened. Session opened the 3 globe queries that return the 0 result. Instead, test treating that as a dead end, the agent treat that signal as it need a different strategy. And this is what we did. We enforced them to now go via the MCP. So it opened up other aspect of like any files. Now security has completely been bypassed because it is now looking for the hack paths. And this is exactly what happened. In one of my personal experience, I have lost something to Git RM, which is a very unique command to use. Means it's the last thing that tech leads and the team leads actually use when they cannot remove the Git conflicts. But the models do not safeguard against that. They actually use it, and I have lost my couple of files because of that. Since then, I have make sure that no matter what, no matter how small the project is, I always put the correct safeguarding in place beforehand, and also enforce that every autonomous agent should run only on a isolated or sandbox environment. In this case, the agent assistant then reads the existing hook file, validation script, and MCP configuration before adding anything. Now it is accessing through the MCP, so it has full access. But still, the enforcement system in place which ensure that env files and other cannot be accessed. The run add the hook file, the validator script that blocks barrel the imports unless they explicitly allowed. Safety will become the code, not just assumption of the model. The final pass remove the unnecessary complexity from the helper logic. Even the enforcement code should stay some minimal, understandable, and easy to maintain, and there is a reason why. The more enforcement will suppress the model stability, which means model find harder and harder. Models tunnel and become it harder and harder to explore and discover new context, which means the model will eventually perform worse. So the best part of security is not to over-engineer or under-engineer. The reason why security professionals are being paid is to identify the correct level of security that we need. So always make sure you start from the baseline. The common mistake is the same as say perfect tooling platform from day one. The better approach, go incremental. Put a baseline and then keep incrementing, identifying the gaps within your system and keep filling them. That's the best way to find a perfect balanced approach. One more thing, who can be agents for? And it is a very good idea that certain hooks you develop for different type of agents, and you can actually hook them in a front matter, which ensures that only limited number of the agents can access some special hooks that you develop, and it does not overarch or reduce the capability of your agents. The create hook command, the / create hook command, can also scaffold a new hook for you. It's the best way to actually create a new hook in my opinion. The Copilot CLI now support hook as well. So always make sure that whenever you design your workflow, it works with both modes, Copilot CLI or a command line, as well as the Copilot chat mode, which is the Visual Studio Code. Next, lesson 7, we'll cover the surface strategy, the probability matrix, and building the reusable context layer. It's one of the very important and interesting lesson in my opinion. It will provide you the further abstraction and further abstract thinking into this process. Here is my challenge for you. What's the sneakiest mistake that an AI tool made in your guardrail that you didn't catch? How did you discover it? What did you add to prevent it next time? I already said what happened to me. I lost some code, and then I ensured that I got hooks, and I also ensured that I got always a sandbox. Share your war story in the comments, and the best response get an invite from our exclusive live sessions. You would surprised that how much different flavors and different incidents been discussed and shared in this sort of sessions. It will be immensely beneficial. Hit the subscribe, enable the notification so you get soon as we release the next lesson in your timeline. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in lesson 7.